All right, everybody. I guess it's a better time than ever to announce that I've returned. Just making sure that all my audio works. And is everything working from your end? Yep, I'm good. So, if you're unfamiliar with what I do here, this is just Sketch Jam. So I sit in a drawer. I use a fun little application called Procreate. And I sort of talk about stuff as well, I guess. This is one of those things where I'm trying to build a bunch of channels and everything. At the same time, like, I've also got this burgeoning career. So if you don't recognize this character, this is Duke Nukem, who's one of the, I guess, heroes of mine video game characters. Just gonna have this playing in the background. I'll have that on repeat. Bit of background music, you know how it is. And what I love about this character is, like, I rediscovered this game, God, how long ago was it? I rediscovered this game like a few weeks ago. I was just scrolling through, you know, the Steam game store, whatever. And yeah, I saw Duke Nukem 20-year anniversary. Like, this game has been around for ages, like. And I did a bit more searching. Like, I bought it, I downloaded it, and it's just fun, you know, playing a game that I have a lot of fun memories. parts of it don't really hold up that well. Like, you know, I hated the sprite graphics even as a kid. Like, I always thought they looked kind of, you know, tacky, the way, you know, you couldn't really... They were never true. It was never truly a 3D game as we understand them now. Like, Duke Nukem, it was more of it aspired to be in 3D, you know? Like, enough of it was three-dimensional for it to qualify, but that's really only by like 1990s standards. Like, if you released a game like that today, you know, and called it 3D, it would just be seen as sort of like casually ironic rather than anything else. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely like one of those sort of, I guess, brilliant standout of its time, you know, examples of what a game that really pushed the boundaries and was able to get away with it, because this was sort of in a pre-internet kind of time. Like, the internet was a thing, but it was still like dial-up and stuff, and, you know, not every house had it. You know, I have distinct memories of, you know, when we first got the internet for our house. It was just slow, and there wasn't a whole lot of stuff on it. It was just basically like a slightly more interesting version of Encarta. And Encarta, or World Book, we had this multiple CD or DVD what was it called? Like, it was an encyclopedia, and that's pretty much, you know, what the internet was back then. Like, we downloaded yeah yeah it is. Hang on, I'm just gonna pop over to the multi-stream because I'm missing a whole bunch of messages here. Trying to get this stream chat. Yeah, this is Duke Nukem. Just gonna jump on over to YouTube real quick. See how I'm going. So yeah, hi to everyone watching on YouTube, also on the other platforms as well. Hopefully that'll play again. Yeah, I briefly just lost my train of thought. No, what I was saying was, back in the day, we had the internet, but it wasn't really like the internet we have now. Like, the internet we have now is a completely different beast. I was watching this thing on TikTok. This lady was describing, you know, what it was like to be a zillennial, which is sort of halfway between being a what's it called? A Gen X and a millennial. Like, there's this weird time between 1977 and 1983 where a sort of a micro generation was born between these two you know, established generations. And I'm a zillennial. I'm not a millennial. I remember, you know, and I've, you know, said this in previous streams before. I remember, you know, life before computers took over basically everything. You know, I remember movies being genuinely scary because all the effects were practical. I remember, you know, thinking that learning a martial art was going to be a real significant help from being bullied in the playground. And yeah, I just remember pretty much all of the adults in my life smoking. It was an interesting time. And I miss it. I miss it to a certain degree. Like, I don't get sort of misty-eyed and, you know, really nostalgic about, you know, what the 80s was like, because, you know, I've ranted about this on many occasions before. Like, you know, I am very glad the 80s is over. I don't understand people who get, like, you know, really sort of passionate about a decade where, you know, asbestos was still in a lot of things, and the fashion was horrible. I mean, the music was amazing. Like, you know, don't get me wrong. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed the music. I still do. Actually, I got my what's it called? I got my what's it called? I got my year in review back for Spotify, right? And the new sort of like, these are all the songs you've listened to, and this is, you know, your taste, and this is where you are on the, you know, the spectrum of music genres, and, you know, this is what you like, and this is what you avoided, and, you know, this is the decade that really defines your, you know, user profile. And I got my age back, and it was 56. I'm only 42. I know I look a lot younger than I seem, but like, if you have a look closely, that is actually grey hair in my beard, and I actually have a few very, very pale looking chest hairs as well. But yeah, I was like, I can't believe that I'm actually that old, according to Spotify. Like, that just blew my mind, you know? And I mean, look, that's just like, it's not a reflection of you as a person, but it still kind of it kind of made me think, like, am I actually more mature, or am I just a bit of an old fuddy-duddy? Or am I somewhere in the center where I am kind of, I don't know, like, you know, when you hear people say, oh, he's an old soul, I personally don't think so, but it would make a lot of sense, because, you know, I do like naps in the afternoon, and I am a fan of just sort of taking it easy, you know. There's this one TikToker that I watch. I can't think of his name. He's like American. I think he's like Italian or something. And like, he usually just films stuff in his car, and he's always sort of like a little bit whimsical, a little bit depressed, but also like he's hopeful in like this sort of cynical, like, you know, he understands that so many things are beyond his control, and you know, God has got his back. But he also says stuff like, you know, it would be a great challenge for me, you know, if God was, you know, really interested in testing me, what would I be like if I just found a suitcase full of $100 bills? You know, what if I just won the lottery? Like, how well would I go? And you know, it's just that kind of, I guess it's sarcasm, and at the same time, like, there's something a little bit sort of self-pitying and dark about it. You just think, okay, buddy, we get it. Because I understand to a degree, you know, self-pity. I do. Like, everybody has been there and done that, and you know, we all just, you know, have those days, those moments where we feel put upon and victimized, and why is this happening to me? And we get a little bit blinded by the pain rather than what we should be really focusing on. Just give me a minute, guys. So yeah, anyway, as I was saying, yeah, he sort of just comes across as just a tiny bit more self-indulgent, as I listen to him. Like, for every one video he puts up where he sort of just spits facts and wisdom, and you know, just says, hey, look, you got to understand that this is all part of a deeply complex and mostly beyond our control divine plan, and it's about us, but at the same time we're the focal point as well as like a background extra at any given time. You know, you ever have those moments where you just think, oh, I'm not even the main character of my own life? And like, I think about that sometimes, like, you know, yeah, I'm probably not as important in the grand scheme of things, but at the same time, like, philosophically, when you look at it, like, all these things sort of come together as a big confluence of events and stuff, and you just think, wow, maybe I am actually more important than I realized. Potentially, that is. Just gonna straighten up this leg here. Slightly bigger. I've always been a fan of this character. Even back in the day when he was just like this, when he was just a platformer. So I had these. I bought a bunch of secondhand comic books when I was a kid. So I always got my like I used to mow lawns and stuff, and I used to get my allowance and everything, and I used to go down to this local bookshop, and the guy that worked there, he had like a bunch of old comics and even like old Mad magazines, and I used to buy like tons of them. I used to just go through them, and there was a bunch that I still have these. Like they're in a they're very thankfully in a sealed container, so they're not going to get like water damage or anything like that. They're just in storage at the moment, but yeah, I'm thinking of getting them out of storage and sort of doing a bit of a review on the what's going on here. So I haven't done a live stream pretty much for months now. Yep. Just gonna straighten up this arm here. This arm's slightly wonky. Really want him sort of blasting off this monster's head. Sort of point blank. What I'm gonna do is I'll be right back. I just gotta find my glove. found the glove. Oh boy. Well, that took longer than I expected. Sorry about that. I need a dedicated beverage holder. yeah, I got my my glove. Do. I just realized that the monster here has a big gnarly nose ring, and Duke Nukem is just shooting it in the head. What are you waiting for, Christmas? And I'm just noticing it now. I didn't realize there was another monster right here, like one of the aliens right here. I remember seeing this game on the shelves as a kid, and like this part here was very likely just sort of this part was obviously covered by something, probably like the PC specs or whatever. And I didn't realize it. Yeah, that's one of the aliens. Isn't that cool? It's amazing what you notice when you start noticing stuff. Let's swap this out. I've got so many of these bloody flask drink things. Fix up this leg. I want to have him a bit more like standing directly. Yeah, so what's up with, I guess, Hollywood and celebrity news recently? It's apparently Quentin Tarantino isn't a fan of the body of work of actors Paul Dano and Matthew Lillard. And if you're unfamiliar with those guys, it's the young bloke who played the Riddler in the most recent version of Batman, and the guy who played Shaggy in the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. And he was also in like Scream and stuff. So like these guys, you know, they're not massive names in Hollywood. Like people know who they are, but they make a lot more like obscure stuff, you know. So Paul Dano was in like There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis. He sort of played like the main guy that Daniel Day-Lewis could not get along with. He's like the foil. So There Will Be Blood is about like a guy who's trying to make it in the oil industry. and I haven't actually seen the whole movie, so I'm not gonna like do a summary of it. But yeah, needless to say, Paul Dano hasn't had like a lot of like sort of critically acclaimed mainstream success. Like, I don't think he's ever gonna be considered like one of those sort of actors. But he's still a good actor, you know. He still gets regular work and stuff, and he's good at what he does. And Matthew Lillard's great as well. Like, I loved him as Shaggy. Like, I couldn't stand the I can't stand like live action anything, especially when it comes to like interpretations of. Actually, I actually do like a lot of live action stuff. It's just when movies are sort of made out of like live action movies are made as sort of like, hey, there's an animated classic, but here's a bunch of cosplayers. Like, I can't stand that. Like, I've never been a fan of that. And like realistically, it just means that Hollywood is, I think, struggling for new ideas. A lot of I've seen recently a lot of music biopics seem to be like the flavor of the month when it comes to making these kinds of things. But yeah, I just think, to those guys, to those actors, like, if Quentin Tarantino doesn't like you, you're gonna be okay. I promise you, it's not the end of the world. If anything, like, that's a him problem, not a you guys problem. Mushroom cloud in the background. Like, interestingly enough, the video game character Duke Nukem shares the same name with a bad guy from the animated show Captain Planet, also called Duke Nukem. And what I love about the Captain Planet Duke Nukem, which is a great idea I just had for another sketch jam. I'm actually going to draw all the bad guys from Captain Planet, because if there was a show that had a great sort of rogues gallery, like a really interesting and incredibly talented voice actors, it would be the Captain Planet rogues gallery. Like, you have Verminous Scum and Dr. Blight and Sly Sludge and Hoggish Greedley and Loot and Plunder. All these ridiculous character names that are sort of double entendres and sort of a bit like they're word game names. So and these are all characters that had like really good voice actors, like actual Hollywood voice actors. Like Jeff Goldblum did voice acting for Captain Planet, Meg Ryan, Tim Curry. Who else? I think Jim Cummings worked on the show as well. Like, but Jim Cummings was kind of everywhere back in the '90s. Like he was sort of like the go-to voice actor for pretty much everything. Make sure to not go over my layers too much. So yeah, where have I been? Like I make all these sort of like lofty promises that oh yeah, I'm gonna stream live every week, twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week if I've got the extra energy. And then I go like radio silent for like the better part of 3 months. And the reason for that was I was actually overseas. I work on, as an entertainer, and I travel for work. So yeah, I'm abroad. And I'm on stage, and I'm usually nowhere near any kind of like internet service that's like adequate enough to do live streaming from, which is a bit of a bugger because I kind of want to keep building the channel and whatnot and what have you. These little bits at a time. So I won't be doing my usual like I sort of tried to make it as about as Tuesdays and Thursdays as I could, but that just didn't work. So what I decided was like I won't have like a set schedule. I'll just be like I go live when I can. If you're around, please tune in, and that's how it's gonna work. Who cares? I'll also do some of the hand drawn stuff. I'll do that live as well. I reckon I can just like set up the phone, and that should work just fine. So there's this new character that just got launched on Overwatch 2, which I'm pretty stoked about. It's finally, Christmas time, and we usually get the Winter Wonderland. Hey, how's it going? You usually get the Winter Wonderland thing. Yeah, I wasn't sure if the chat. I was not sure if the chat was working properly, so I'm glad you showed up. Sometimes I can just be like, just rambling off into the wild blue yonder, and just not sure if it's been picked up by anybody. Yeah, what was I talking about again? Yeah, so I wanna start going live a little bit more often than I have been. Let's throw in let's see if we can get a beat on that red. So yeah, this is sort of the definition of, hey, here's something I prepared earlier. You know what I mean? Like I'd sort of go, oh, okay. See, as I was mentioning before, like there's been a whole lot of like weird celebrity news that just sort of doesn't really hit the way it used to. Like it all kind of falls into the category of who the hell cares, you know? Like seeing, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande get really sort of weird and uncomfortable with each other during a press tour has been one of the most annoyingly distracting things I think I've ever seen since like the Meghan Markle and Harry wedding, you know? Like I've made this point before, but I think you can tell, just what kind of slow news day or slow news week you're about to experience is just how much like Meghan Markle is appearing in the news cycle. Like every now and then I'll check in with like some of the different news channels that I follow, And it's just like, oh, it's just, oh, Meghan Markle did a thing, and it's just sort of like, okay, that's going automatically in the not my monkeys, not my circus category. Like, I cannot bring myself to pretend to care about that woman. Like, and not that, like, you know, she's probably not a nice person in real life. You know, we've all got baggage and whatever. It's just that, like, that they're trying to make her more interesting than she actually is. And I think that's what's happened with celebrities as well, is they've kind of been, like, very demystified. And it's not always a good thing when famous people are just sort of like, you know, shown to be just fabulously wealthy but still very normal. Like, there was something genuinely cool and interesting and, like, edgy and stuff about what you thought a celebrity might be like versus what they're actually like. I mean, I will admit, it helped me, like, sort of get over certain phases. So I went through a bunch of, I went through my goth phase and stuff. And I was really big into, like, Marilyn Manson when I was a teenager. And I would have been, like, a fan of that guy for life had he not made that one album that sort of snapped me out of it. And I have to say that album has, it's stayed with me all this time. It's honestly grown on me, if I can, you know, just be as, I guess, charitable as possible about it. But Mechanical Animals, I wanted to like it so much because I really got into, you know, his other albums. Like, I thought, you know, this guy has successfully bridged the gap between, like, death metal and understanding the lyrics to a death metal song, you know? I mean, the problem I have with, like, a lot of heavy metal, like death metal music and stuff like that is, you know, the singers go out of their way. Hey, Court! They go out of their way to sound as, like, inhuman as possible. And I'm listening to, like, you know, Cradle of Filth or whatever, and the guy just sounds like a pterodactyl being attacked by, like, a Godzilla-sized cookie monster, and I just think he could be saying the contents of a shopping list, and I wouldn't know, because it just sounds like, you know, garbled gibberish. It's just, you know, the guy's making animal noises into the microphone, and I'm pretending like, oh, this is deep. I just find all that kind of music it just never appealed to me. It wasn't until I played the game, what's it called? Brutal Legend. I've talked about this before. The game Brutal Legend, which It stars Jack Black as like the main character, as Eddie Riggs, who's he's a roadie that gets hit by a light rig during a concert that he's putting on for a bunch of like teeny bopper new metal guys, and he gets sort of knocked unconscious. It's kind of like a dream sort of thing. Like basically, oh, this guy's probably just in a coma or whatever. But you know, it's cool in that sort of way. But yeah, the soundtrack to that game introduced me to so many amazing bands and so many cool songs. Like I would never have discovered, what are they called? Manowar. Friggin' amazing band. Like all they do is sing about like Vikings and stuff, and their album covers are a bit, you know, how's it going in terms of what are these guys up to? But yeah, man, I'm just like Dawn of Battle. That song is like in a boss fight in the game, and I just looked that up, and I'm like, you know, I opened up Shazam on my phone. I listened to it. I'm just like going, that is incredible. I've never heard that song before, and I love every bit of that song, and I still have that on my playlist. So yeah, if you're just joining me, I was just like ranting about how I just got my Spotify year in review back, and it turns out I am actually at least 10 years older than I really am, according to their data. In fact, I'm almost 15 years older, according to their data. It's like, what kind of music does Ed like? Well, apparently Ed's it's actually a Gen Xer. He's not as millennial as he claims to be. I'm like, hey, I promise you I'm not that old. I don't care. It's just sort of one of those things where you just think, oh, am I actually older than I thought? You know, maybe I am. But there's just some songs that I like. There's some genres that I refuse to, you know, grow out of. There's just like, there's a whole bunch of songs that I grew up with, because my parents would like have the radio on in the background, and I would just listen to whatever they were listening to. And yeah, that's what I grew up with. Nothing wrong with that. Make that a bit more red. Nice. Yeah, man, like I'm still mostly like synth pop and like 80s, very mainstream, you know. Like I really wanted to give like other genres of music a shot, but I'm just not into it, you know. So, what age did you guys get when you got your summary back and it said, oh, your listening age is this 23. Far out. Wow, that's that's heaps young. Far out, mate. You got some very young taste. Me, I'm just like I'm old school. I'm so old school. I'm almost in my 60s according to Spotify. Gee whiz. I mean, that's kind of normal. Like I've grown up pretty much always been surrounded by boomers. They're just boomers everywhere. Where I live, there's just nothing but boomers. Oh, what the hell? Let's just merge these layers. All right. So, did you have any like predominant like genre that like sort of really stood out, or was it just kind of it was a bit of a collection of pretty much everything? Because I can't tell if I'm actually genuinely an old soul or if I've just just not used any of the other features on the app and it's trying to insult me into trying to keep up with the young people. Which in its own way is a bit cringe too, because I'd just be like, I wonder what they're listening to, and I just feel like I'm just showing up like, how do you do, fellow kids? Ugh. Nah. I'm very much Bob Seger. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time rock and roll. Which in its own right is kind of an old fart song as well. Oh no. I think that was like in a Tom Cruise movie. From like the 80s or whatever. I think that was in Risky Business. Let me check. So I've been using what have I been using? Let's have a whiskey. I've been using Grok a fair amount. Old time rock and roll was in Risky Business. Yes, it was. So this movie came out the year I was born. That's how old I am. So 1983. Old Time Rock and Roll by Bob Seger was famously featured in the 1983 movie Risky Business, starring Tom Cruise. His iconic scene where a young Tom Cruise, home alone, slides into the living room in his socks, shirt and underwear, grabs a candlestick as a microphone, and lip syncs and dances wildly to the song. It is one of those iconic scenes that I didn't realize was over 40 years old now. Like, if Tom Cruise was to do that scene again, he probably could without that much issue, because, seeing a man in his, mid-60s trying to hijack, to try to stop a plane being hijacked as it's flying through mid-air. Oh, wow. Nice. Surely not. I mean, I'm flattered. You're seeing, old movie stars like Dick Van Dyke, who, he just turned 100, and apparently his his secret is apparently just not dying. Like he can't figure out why and how old he's gotten. He wakes up with a smile on his face. He's always grateful for another day. He's a happy enough dude. Like, he's sort of retired from acting, but like he's sharp enough, and he doesn't have any of like the classic old people like things going wrong with him. You hear about the horrors of Alzheimer's and dementia. He seems to be as spry as he ever was. He gets up, does a little bit of a dance. He doesn't move as fast as he used to. Obviously, he's not trying to play Bert in Mary Poppins like he did back in the 1960s when Walt Disney himself was still alive. Like, that's how old Dick Van Dyke is. He is a man who can confidently say he was on, first name basis with Walt Disney himself. And the interesting thing about Walt Disney is, like, he hasn't been gone for that long either. Like, Walt Disney died when my parents were kids. Like, in the grand scheme of things, that was barely the blink of an eye ago. Just checking the emails. Yeah, so I've been using Grok, and I love Grok. Grok is fun, and now that it's stopped trying to upsell me on Super Grok, I'm thinking I'm gonna like it even more going forward. Because for a while there, it was like trying to go, use Super Grok. I'm just like, no, I'm not going to use Super Grok, because $50 a month to use what is essentially just a slightly better search engine doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I can get the same results if I just type into a search engine exactly what I was going to ask Grok and get the same result. Like, you can actually have a conversation, like a proper AI conversation, with just about any of the search engines now. Pretty much all of them have some kind of feature where you can just go, oh, okay, so it's got a little AI answer, and you can just jump into that and just start chatting away to the search engine. That's all I use Grok for, is just, hey, can you help me answer this particular trivia question? Yeah, Grok. This one. So if you see that, so that's Grok. That's I just use that. Brock. Like Brock Lesnar. There's a great guy. Like, I want to draw the old pro wrestlers as well, because they're starting to die too. Like, we lost Hulk Hogan, and he was a big part of my childhood. Like, just sort of watching him as a kid, and watching him Hulk out and stuff, and you just realize just how much we've lost in terms of 80s heroes. Like, I saw recent footage of Chuck Norris, and Chuck Norris has aged a lot. Like, he is looking old and haggard. Like he's still like, you know, he gets up there and he still does his martial arts moves, but yeah, he does look just like a tired old man, you know. Look, I don't blame you, mate. I was always like an Ultimate Warrior fan. I'm Macho Man Randy Savage all the way. I miss those guys terribly. Just they're crazy. Just the interviews they would give to like Mean Gene, you know, and they were clearly out of their mind on whatever they were having in the back room. But you know, you just look at them and go, they will never be able to replicate that level of like steroid and illicit substance intensity really ever again. I mean, they can sort of ham it up a little bit, and obviously, you know, there's a certain amount of over the top that like just comes with the territory of being a wrestler. But yeah, that whole like 80s 1980s WWE wrestling. It's called WWE. It's called WWF back in the day. So World Wrestling Federation or something like that. And they will never be able to, like with today's wrestlers, I don't think they'll ever be able to get to that level of just like off the wall. What are these people on? I've never seen anybody like even at parties I used to go to, I've never encountered anyone that like just, you know, how's it going? Then again, I like to think my partying days are just getting warmed up. That reminds me, I've actually got a party tomorrow, so I won't be doing any live streaming or anything like that. Yeah, let's move on to the next thing I want to draw. And that's this character here. So this is Vendetta. Man, it feels good to be back. Like I had one of those, you ever have like a power nap in the middle of the day and you feel just insanely good afterwards? Like I've just completely, recharged my battery to full capacity at this point, and I'm going for it, you know? The problem is, like, if you sleep too long during the day, it can completely mess up your circadian rhythm to such a degree that you end up just, like, oversleeping, and you can just throw yourself into a spiral. And that's what I like, kind of don't like about, what's it called? Daylight savings, you know? Like the cool thing, like I was recently overseas in Papua New Guinea, and they're on the exact same like timeline as like Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane and all that. But the thing is, realistically, the whole east coast of Australia should be on Brisbane time, but it's not because, like, two out of those three states, I think Tasmania does as well, they observe daylight savings, which means that everything kind of gets thrown off, and collectively, you know, New South Wales and Victoria in particular experience kind of a, I guess you could call it, mass hysteria and mild jet lag for months, like the better part of 6 months out of the year. We're just wondering, why do I feel tired when I'm not supposed to be tired? And when I was a kid, like I've ranted about this before, but it's worth repeating. I remember, being sent to bed as a kid when it was still like light outside. So I remember being really excited and really stoked for Christmas morning, and how many sleeps left until Santa gets here and all that kind of fun stuff. And I remember it being hot. I remember it being just ridiculous temperatures. Like Australia just is not the best country to try and maintain the fantasy of a white Christmas. The problem with Christmas as a holiday, particularly in a country where it's summertime when Christmas when Christmas happens, is none of it makes sense from a climate point of view. Like, the Christmas tradition that is observed, from Europe and the United States and all the Northern Hemisphere countries it just doesn't make sense. When you look outside your window and it's like, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. I've been dreaming of a white Christmas ever since I heard that song. It just doesn't happen. It will never happen in this country because we're on the wrong side of the world for that to be physically possible. It's just, I don't know. I've ranted about this before. May as well rant about it again. So, yeah, so we got how long till Christmas? So it's the 10th today. Far out, Brussels sprout. Yeah. So I'm going to be busy for the next, oh God, how long? So you won't see me for the rest of the week, basically. I like how she's got this sort of Statue of Liberty scrunchie in her hair, sort of like a hair tie. That kind of looks a bit like a crown. And this character's Italian, which is, you know, hilarious in its own right, because apparently one of her defining features is she has big hair, a big sword, and hates pineapple on pizza, which I think is you know, kind of cute. So yeah, she like Lupa, or Vendetta as she's known. She looks a lot like one of the girls from the old reality TV show Jersey Shore. If anyone remembers that one. Lots of heavy eyeliner. Lots of jewelry. You'll have to excuse the chair. I bought this chair a couple of months ago. I freaking hate it. I hate this chair so much. It's not that it's not uncomfortable. Like, it's a great little chair. It does, you know, everything that an office chair is supposed to do, except the one thing that an office chair is supposed to do, which is not to lose gas in the hydraulic lift part of it. So if I sit on this chair, like, at a certain, like, if I lean back on a chair that is designed to be leaned back on, it just starts losing altitude. So I'll start sinking because, yeah, the gas just escapes from the stupid lift. And I kind of blame myself for you know, getting a cheap version. Like, if you've got a gas lift chair, like, spend the extra money and get like a really good one. Because I just went and said, you know what, I need a proper gaming chair. I need something that's, you know, something that I'm able to sit on and do like a marathon live stream or whatever. And I thought I had that in this one, but no. So she's a bad guy character. And she's kind of introduced in the old game of Overwatch. Back when it was just regular old Overwatch and not, Overwatch 2. And she was just sort of like hinted at. She wasn't really part of the game at that point. And the cool thing about her design as well is you can see where the influences have come from. Like, it's not just Jersey Shore and Italian Beauty and all that. There's like elements of Gladiator. She's very similar to Junker Queen in that regard. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to get a basic likeness down for this character here. I'll be coming back to this one at a later point. I didn't want to actually go over any longer than an hour and a half for this particular live stream, because I know I'll just keep rattling off, as I usually do. So yeah, I would like to thank everyone who tuned in, checked out the art and all that fun stuff, and yeah, look. Sketch Jam will be back when it's back. It's one of those things. I want to be able to go live more, but I don't see that happening until at least the end of December. I might be able to do like another short one, like maybe next week, but don't know yet. Anyway, guys, as always, I will call it in, and thanks to everyone who showed up. Court, mate, you're awesome, thank you. Everyone else who just dropped by and said hi, all the new subscribers out there, all the new followers, thank you. You guys are awesome. You guys make this somehow work. I don't know, I'm still wrapping my head around the whole live streaming thing, probably because I haven't done it that much. I'm putting it up for months at a time. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'll see you when I see you. See ya.